Nation's second podcast in the series. Today, we are interviewing Dr. Judy Staveley. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me, Anisha. I'm really excited to address some, mental health requirements that we're going to be addressing this morning for children.
Of course. So, we have a couple questions for you today. So, what are the main stressors and challenges that children face today, and what can we do to address these challenges?
Well, right now, I think I was a former college professor, so a lot of these answers come from experience and what I've seen, and then also I have a extensive background in psychology and behavior intervention. So a lot of my experience comes with research and supportive evidence studies. So that's why I will be addressing a lot of those areas also. So over the years, we have seen a lot of challenges in academic pressure. So academic pressure for young children, even your age, right, is probably one of the most stressors and challenges that an individual can face. I think the more highly academic you are, the more of a challenge it might be for us that like to pursue academic studies and who love to study, right? So we always want that good grade, right? And sometimes it's really hard to get that, maybe that A that you want, and it might be kind of sad if you don't get it, right? If you're a kid. And so that's one of the things. And another thing that, you know, that's a big issue in the United States, and I would say globally, is social media. Social media, children are so, connected with a lot of worldview events right now, which is a problem. And everything is live, everything is quick and fast. And knowing a lot of what's going on in the world becomes a stressor. And also, I personally didn't never had TikTok, but with TikTok, I hear from other individuals and such as young girls, it's all about having the followers and impressing the audience. And if you lose a follower, it becomes a problem for that individual, right? And social media is a big thing, and also with social media, cyberbullying is a big thing. Now you've got people following each other, and if friends don't like you, they can say something on the internet. But I would highly recommend not doing that because there are now laws in place, right, that protect everybody. So and then also stalking in the state of Maryland, we have this new law for stalking. So now there's stuff in place. I know when the internet first came out, there was not any laws in place. So things are evolving to protect individuals from the internet, which is a good thing, and it makes you feel a little bit more secure, right? But social media is probably one of the other biggest challenges that brings on anxiety, sometimes depression, because you kind of feel like you might be competing with others, and you want that attention. And also for your age group and high schoolers right now, in the academics, we love to show our high achievements, and I'm one of them. I grew with the internet, and from day one, so I've learned all of these great marketing tactics, and what's good, what's bad, what's a negative behavior, what's a positive behavior. And I always say, social media is a wonderful platform to promote your academic achievements, right? You should be proud of your academic achievements. And if you want to, I won't say brag, but show them off humbly, right? It should be a positive thing that you can do without anybody having to judge you. But of course, there's always some, negativity that might come with that. But I would say social media is probably the one of the biggest things that kind of influences anxiety, one's self-esteem, now mental health. And then the third one, I'm going to say food challenges. Food challenges is not discussed enough. And during my clinical studies, I learned that nutrition is a very important issue in children. When I was doing my residency at Johns Hopkins at Kennedy Krager Center, I worked in the neurobehavior unit, and I learned so much working there. And I worked with pediatrics, and I learned a lot about behavior intervention. But the one that really struck me the most during my psychology studies was the nutritional influences on mental health. And I saved my book. It's an old book, but I highly recommend it. I have it here with me. I'm going to show it off to you because it's super cheap. But this author, who is Dr. Warbach. Can you see it without my screen?
I think the background is
It's kind
we
of
can't
okay. Let
really
me.
see it.
Okay, here we go. You can see the
Now we
title
can
there,
see it.
right? Okay, because if you Google the title, or you can find it on Amazon super cheap now. It's an old book, but it's still very informative, and it has wonderful, great references that anybody can use for clinical research. And I bring that up because I find that a lot of elementary schools are underrepresented. Kids are not eating properly. And especially during our COVID pandemic, we experienced a lot during the pandemic, emotionally, physically, and one of these things is having the proper nutrition to overcome these biological factors. A lot of nutritional deficiencies. So having a biological background and a molecular background, right? And then growing into the psychological part of biology and psychological stuff that, nourishes the brain, and all of everything that you eat influences how you act. So it's really important to get the proper nutrition. And there has been plenty of supportive research evidence that is published, and you can go to, Medline or WebMD and read about it. But nutrition really affects um, anxiety, stress. And if you're not getting the proper nutrients, just like a daily vitamin with minerals, again, you're going to experience some anxiety. And I worry about the kids that are not getting the proper nutrition at school or at home. They might get it at school, they'll get, a good healthy lunch, but when they come home, they might not be getting that same nutrition that is required for the body. And then that can also influence their behavior. So I'm very passionate about that. But again, addressing nutrition deficiencies is probably one of the biggest things in medical school for psychiatrists. And I'm really a big advocate for that, because I think that helps more than an actual pharmaceutical ingredient that's going to help with behavior.
Mhm. Okay, yeah, I definitely think that nutrition is a major part of mental health, and social media can definitely impact what a child is thinking at the moment. And that takes over what a lot of what the child usually thinks about, and they can't really let in any positivity when they're suffering from like a great loss or negative moment. So yeah, I definitely agree with your statement there. Um, how can we ensure that children have access to quality mental health resources, and how can schools support them?
Well, I was an educator, and I still educate. I still mentor you and your sister. And I think your foundation is going to be a wonderful, community service, giving back to children and possibly all ages, right? So I think first for in the school is training teachers and training educators to recognize and respond to mental health issues. And also just simple things like breathing in the classroom and kind of having empathy. Empathy is a big one. I find that a lot of teachers don't have empathy, or they get burned out, and they get frustrated and they lose patience, right? And maybe there needs to be a little bit more mental health training. I know as a college professor, I went through mental health training. Um, after the fact that I was done with my psychology studies. But they would give us these free training sessions to go to help us, cope with our students. And it was a really good free training that was offered, I think, through the state. But there's community, organizations that will help training for educators. But there's also school-based services, which I think are really essential. Again, going back to my experience as a professor, um, we used to have school-based services at the colleges. They, I would say maybe 10 years ago, they did away with those services for students, which I was very disappointed at the time when they did away with those services, because I thought it was very essential for students that if they were struggling through something, they had somewhere private that they could go talk to and get counseled or support for some of their anxiety, right? But those went away due to funding. So that's another area that I think is very important. For all schools, not just colleges, but for, elementary all the way up through your doctoral studies. And then, of course, what you're doing is community partnerships. Community partnerships are essential. If the schools or colleges don't have these type of services, at least some organizations could go out there into the community and support, right? And advocating for maybe funding, or and also just having the right individuals maybe come to community events, and having kids know that they have a support mechanism there waiting for them. And it's just sometimes talking to somebody who is empathetic, understanding and knows how to cope with these stressors and anxiety that children tend to deal with every day. So having a right person that knows behavior intervention to kind of help them get through these challenges is really important.
Yeah, uh, that was a really wonderful answer. Yeah, children definitely need someone that they can count on to listen to what they really need instead of making assumptions about what their child might need. So that is definitely something that is very important today in children's mental health. So
Right,
what
and let me go back to parents. And that's also, sometimes parents don't know what to say or what to do. But it's very essential that parents be empathetic and supportive. There is a little bit of stigma of, getting counseling or mental health. Um, and I don't know how to change that stigma. Yeah, I mean, we've tried for, over 20 years, right? But maybe changing the stigma of having community services, right? And people coming to a partnership event that addresses mental health, that will help support parents and the children. And then parents can kind of understand how to, address some of these issues with their children.
Yeah, I think that's kind of exactly what my organization and nonprofit is trying to do. I think the first step towards breaking that stigma is just letting people know about it and educating parents and other supporters, including children, to help a child or like feel comfortable to talk about it. Like create a comfortable zone for your child to talk about it, for your student to talk about it, or even just your friend if you're a kid as well. So just making other people feel comfortable around you is probably the first step into breaking that stigma.
Exactly. So when I was a professor, I had an open door policy, and my open door was any student in the college campus could always come to my office if they had anxiety or they were scared. And that is the reason why I went into studying psychology 20 years ago. I practiced, I did my residency for a year, like I said. However, I wanted to continue teaching and implement what I had learned into being a college professor. But when I started as a college professor, it was important for me to understand, if I was going to be teaching, to deal with students in Alaska, because Alaska had high suicide rates at all ages. So one of those things I was very empathetic about. So I wanted to properly learn how to deal with my students if anything became an issue, and how to do it professionally and knowledgeably, right? So kind of, and again, I still have an open door policy for, my ex-students and my mentees, and and it's always good to, talk. And I just think as a leader in any organization, that's something that should be available for, for students.
Yeah, I think teachers and professors, as well as mentors, can really play a huge role in what a child can think because a child is so special because their thoughts easily get influenced by people around them. So that's just something that they really need support from other people and support from people that matter in their lives. So that's
Exactly.
definitely something. So what initiatives or programs have been successful in promoting children to, like, speak up about their mental health?
I think, like I said, social media is a good platform. If you use it correctly, I think in having what we're doing now, right? Having social media promote the positivity of communicating and having these support groups. And this gives uh, a communication outlet for somebody who may be looking for help and they don't know where to look for, and having it on YouTube or Facebook, Instagram, and getting the word out there, they can see this and say, oh, there's somebody else like me. I can go get help, and maybe I should call and get some supportive services that I can help cope with some of these stressors and challenges that I may be experiencing, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I think social media is definitely a huge part of our lives today, and it can be definitely used for the good in the mental health aspect. So, how can we ensure that underserved children have equitable access to mental health services?
That's a hard one. I pondered on this question because again, there's underrepresented communities, and getting access to some services is difficult. But I think HHS, Human Health Services, has a lot of different programs through each state in the United States that support. And then also what you're doing, community partnerships with different foundations, and there's listings now that when you Google mental health services, you'll get a list of free services. So I think that having those equitable accesses, right? And also for different cultures. So there's different cultures that offer these free services at churches or community centers that students, anybody can go to for free and have a sense of belonging. That's a big one, is having a sense of belonging, because you not only want to fit in, but you also want to share your deep personal emotions with somebody that you're comfortable with, right? And sometimes some of these emotions come from maybe being culture, like culture connected. Um, a lot of cyberbullying right now has to do a lot with different cultures. So you want an outlet that you can fit in.
Yeah, I think we have one more question left, and that is, how can we foster supportive environments in schools, neighborhoods, and families to promote positive mental health?
Again, advocating, right? You want to go out there and say, look, I have this foundation. It's free. We're here to help you. You want to show how kind and sweet you are and empathetic, and kind of just get the word out there and tell them we have this and you can come see us and we can support you. And if we can't support you, we'll find somebody who can.
Yeah, I think the support is really what a child needs, just someone to talk to, someone to say their problems to, or just a friend that they can speak to when they're feeling down. So thank you so much for your time today. And that is the end of podcast number 2 in the series. Thank you.
Thank you, Anisha.